morning, everybody. Calm Bike here on Cloud 9. Well, behind Cloud 9. On a very, very cold day, as you can see. Where it isn't slippery from all of the autumn leaves, it's slippery from all of the ice. These roundabouts are quite terrifying. It's about -3, but it rained last night, so all the salt that was on the road has gone, and what we're left with is interesting to ride on. Normally, I'd have looked at this and said, I don't think I'll bother. But because of the pandemic and the MOT check's been pushed back by 6 months, my annual bike check now gets done in December. So yep, so bike's off for its MOT. I've not got the baffle in. The last 2 years, I took it to the guy and he said, I took it with the baffle in the first time, and he said, you don't ride with that in there, do you? He said, you might as well let me just put down on the MOT that the bike exhaust is loud. And he says, and then there's a record of it, but it's not a failure, so don't worry about it. He says, if you get pulled over, you can always say to him, can't you? Well, it passed the MOT. So the following year and this year, baffle's out, not bothered about it. It can be noisy. It can be noisy for another couple of years. Which brings me to the subject of today's video. There's a lot going around about government plans for bikes and cars, the anti-tampering legislation. Now, it's incredibly badly worded, and the government admitted it was incredibly badly worded. What they actually want to do is stop modifications that make the bike or the car, I'll say bike from now on, but cars count too. So make the bike louder than it was originally designed to be. That would make it give out more pollution than it was originally designed to give out. And that for cars, primarily, presumably, hopefully, any modifications that would change the software to do with controlling the car. Now that's mainly aimed at self-driving cars. They still think that self-driving cars are going to be here in a year or two. I'm less convinced, but I've talked about them in the past, so I won't bother talking about them again. I'll stick a link in the corner. But yeah, so that you can't change the software that would then make the car more dangerous. So basically what they're trying to do is things that hurt other people a lot, or a little, depending on how you look at it. So emissions that hurt people's lungs and hurt the planet, and things that could mess with safety systems and cause accidents. Now, with all of these laws, there's always a side effect, and if you haven't spotted them already, you'll see the various motorbike organisations in the UK already grumbling about it. So they're saying, you know, these rules are silly, but it does look like some things will end up being banned. So the silliness that came out at first of you won't be able to change it away from the manufacturer's specification in any way, potentially, if the laws were written badly enough, and you know, bear in mind how badly a lot of our laws are written, potentially would mean that when it came to change brake pads, you would have to use the ones that your bike manufacturer put in. You would have to, you know, use brake lines, use clutch cables, use everything exactly as the manufacturer recommended. Potentially it would even stop you putting a chain oiler on your bike or a radiator guard. No aftermarket parts at all. Now they've admitted that that is clearly wrong, and that means that hopefully when this comes through, you will still be able to use aftermarket parts, because if you can't use aftermarket parts, I think that gives manufacturers way too much power. You can imagine a situation where an unscrupulous manufacturer, or all manufacturers, depending on how you look at it, so a manufacturer could say, let's create a shortage of parts And then when something fails on your bike, effectively it's a write-off. Now they're talking about addressing that so that when parts aren't available anymore, you'll be able to use alternatives. I think for things like consumables that would be ludicrous. To give you an idea, I need to get the brake lines changed on this bike. They've gone over a little bit to what they should do, but they're absolutely fine. So, you know, why not get a bit more life out of them? But the brake lines on this, I can buy a set of brake lines for about 60 or 70 quid. Or I can buy the Kawasaki ones for about 150 quid just for the front. I don't know which way I'm going to be going. Hopefully braided. But you know, just getting rid of those parts, making them different on newer bikes rather than reusing the same parts, could lead to it becoming really, really difficult to repair things. And also, it would mean that you're probably likely to have to get things repaired at main dealers, because it could well be that they make it very difficult for you to buy these parts yourself. Although those rules do appear to be kind of being watered down, or appear that they will be watered down, so that they don't apply to things that don't really make any sense for them to apply to. It does look like the rules will change so that certain things to do with safety, to do with noise and to do with emissions will go through. It does look like the motorbike organisations are fighting everything except those three things, and I guess they have to, because it would be very bad for an organisation. It'd look bad if they were arguing for louder, dirtier, less safe vehicles. But it does bring up an interesting problem, that on new bikes I guess it probably won't matter. You know, for cosmetic stuff, for exhaust and things that people like to change, they're going to have to change to one that doesn't put out any more emissions, doesn't increase performance, doesn't sound any louder, if they want to change the look of the bike. So I'd probably have to change my exhaust, which at the minute is louder and no doubt more polluting than the stock, or polluting in different ways than the stock. In theory, it should be giving out less CO2 because it doesn't have a catalytic converter. But that does mean it's giving out some other stuff unfiltered as well. And it's a bit louder than stock. I don't think it's extremely loud. I'm sure some people who have less tolerance probably do. There's a lot louder out there. But exhausts like mine potentially will become illegal. I might have to put the baffle in, and I might have to get out from alongside this one. And I might have to buy a new mid-pipe to put a catalytic converter in it to make it legal. If you've got an exhaust that requires you to have a power commander or whatever, you know, some kind of remapping, then potentially you'd have to have that map put back to standard and the power commander taken out. Because these things look like they're going to be retrospective. It looks like that the rules may come in 2023, 2024, and that if you've already made changes to an older bike, tough, that you might have to unmake them. Maybe some of these things will be checked at the MOT like the one I'm going to today, like they are for cars, and maybe that will make them illegal and you'll fail your MOT on emissions or on a loud exhaust. Not sure how they would check your software for your self-driving car, mind. Not quite sure how I feel about it. I kind of understand it. I understand that some people have gone way too far. There's a car driver, I assume lives probably about a mile away from us, and we see them quite often, and they've got a car that you can hear for probably 5 minutes before it arrives. It's insanely loud, and when you look at the back of it, it's got two exhausts that look like dustbins, and I can imagine that that is a massive nuisance for people who live nearby. I think it's a shame if they're saying that the performance envelope and the noise envelope has to be exactly the same as manufactured. because a lot of the manufactured pipes, they spend so much design time on it, it might get to the point where it'd be a struggle to replace it with another part, because exhaust manufacturers aren't going to go to those lengths that a single bike manufacturer, or not a single bike obviously, but a manufacturer that manufactures a range of bikes will go to. And I think for the individual, it's going to be an inconvenience, it's going to put people off a bit for the few years until everything goes electric anyway, and then exhaust won't matter. But I do worry that for a lot of businesses, give you another wipe, for a lot of businesses, this could be a big problem. There are a lot of people employed in aftermarket parts industry. Now, fair enough if you're making crash bungs, which potentially would have been outlawed by the original wording, or radiator guards, or new levers, whatever it might be. You know, you should hopefully be unaffected. But if you are making exhausts, or power commanders, or many other performance parts for bikes, potentially this is you done. So I don't know. What do you think? Let me know in them there comments. Are you conflicted like me about it? Or do you think, leave my bike alone, it's mine, and I want to do with it what I want to do with it? Or are you at the other end? You think bikes should all just be left stock? Let me know. Anyway, thanks for watching everyone. Hopefully you could see everything, not blinded by the sun and the spray and whatnot. Thanks for watching, ride safe, and I'll talk to you all again soon.